The Securities and Exchange Commission is assuring the investing public that all fund management companies are in good stand and there's therefore no cause for alarm. According to the exchange, all investment funds are safe and secured. The SEC recently directed all market operators to use the mark-to-market valuation method in the valuation of investment assets or securities and portfolios in the securities sector. The directive is to provide consistency in the valuation of assets and portfolios in the securities industry, as well as protect investors, especially investors of collective investment schemes. There is more in this News Desk report.
This is coming at a time some investors claim their investments have lost some value, but the SEC says there is no reason to be worried. The current economic situation in the country has largely affected some financial instruments, but the securities industry regulator is assuring investors that they will enjoy better returns when the economic situation normalizes and improves. SEC recently directed all market operators to use the mark-to-market valuation method in the valuation of investment assets or securities and portfolios in the securities sector. The directive is to provide consistency in the valuation of assets and portfolios in the securities industry, as well as protect investors, especially investors of collective investment schemes.
Vice President of the Ghana Securities Industry Association and Managing Director of Sentinel Asset Management, Kesia Antonio, says investors must be patient when some of the situation are happening, and says they must avoid panic withdrawals. He spoke on News Desk.
Let's assume multimedia was listed, and I buy shares of multimedia, and these shares of multimedia go down, are less than the purchase price. It is you who are going to carry the risk, not the investment manager. And there's nowhere in the world where the investment manager takes the losses on behalf of the investor. So I think, look, this has created a situation where all actors in the ecosystem, whether it's investors, and look, if investors are to read the fine print in the prospectuses and fact sheets of these products, they will always say that past performance is no indicator of future returns. Okay. And there's also the mention of the risk that you might not get your principal you invested. Okay. So I think this is a time for fund managers to also explain adequately the downside risks of investments to investors, and also for investors to also read, understand what they're doing.
Okay.
So that, we don't have the situation currently.
Okay. So finally, in the situation we find ourselves, are we saying that if investors take their time and not rush to withdraw, we can get out of this situation and still have access to the full of their principals?
Exactly.
And Professor of Finance, Professor Godfred Bockman, is blaming government's approach to communicating the market, which he describes as inappropriate for the current situation, adding when government debt starts rising, it sends such bad signals to investors.
In the market, information is very important. And government's own approach from the beginning of this year and how they communicate to the market has not been the best. You can see that the market is ahead of the curve and the government is playing catch up. Because the financial system is viewed as the ultimate residual risk claimant of a public debt overhang. When government debt starts rising, it signals uncertainty to the market baseline. So much to the extent that you reach unsustainable level, and especially when at the global level, the government has been priced out of the international capital market. Remember, in the third quarter of 2021, the government, the Ministry of Finance, tested the market, and it didn't go well. And what the market was expecting was that the government then was going to use the 2022 budget to do certain fiscal reforms that will give greater assurance to investors of a fiscal sustainability path. But the 2022 budget failed to deliver on that.
Members of Parliament will this week debate the 2023 budget statement presented last week ahead of passage, and Speaker of Parliament has a warning for government. Ibrahim Bagwin says government should not be using sheer bravado to push through their revenue measures, but dialogue with the opposition to find a common ground. The Speaker says anything other than that will lead to acrimony and conflict, which will not augur well for the economy.
No government has succeeded in doing what it has pushed through against obvious opposition. Parliament matters, the opposition matters, but ultimately the people matter. And so throughout, whether on democratic or democratic governance, when the red flags are raised and you still insist and try to push through using bravado, you always end up in calamity. And so, again, Parliament matters, the opposition matters, and the people. So this rates revision, we need to talk together and agree on it. If not, at the end of the day, you may not succeed in implementing them.
Speaker of Parliament also asked MPs to put aside their partisan colors and work to fix the economy. Mr. Ibrahim Bagwin said the embattled Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has learned a bitter lesson with MPs within his own party seeking to oust him, an essential motion hanging around his neck.
We don't want to go back to the IMF again. The IMF, as we all know, is not the solution. It's just a palliative. In the discussions after the presentation by the resource persons, it should not be said by observers that members are wearing the usual partisan lenses. I expect members to be sensitive to the waning patience and tolerance of Ghanaians and be responsive to the national call to rise up together to salvage the economy. As he sits here, he's learned a bitter lesson. It's uncommon to come across the members of your own party rise up in Parliament against their own minister. It's uncommon.
You heard the Speaker of Parliament, Ibrahim Bagwin. Now, Technical University Senior Staff Association of Ghana, TUSAG, is threatening to go on strike should government fail to address their issues. They have declared a strike action effective Tuesday, December 6, 2022. This was contained in a release by the National Executive Committee of TUSAG, according to a statement issued by TUSAG, which I'll be sharing excerpts with you on your screen right now. It's reads, the National Executive Committee of TUSAG is in consultation with the National Council of the Association resolved to declare a strike action effective Tuesday, December 6th, pending satisfactory resolution of all matters raised before government and the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, GTEC. The decision to withdraw our services is actuated by the refusal of government and GTEC to deal with the following critical issues timeously and appropriately. One, it says placement of faculty officers at the Technical University on the appropriate level on the allowances scheduled for office holders of public universities. 2, restoration of fuel allowance for faculty officers at technical universities. 3, implementation of entertainment allowance for faculty accountants at technical universities. And it's also talking about appropriate placement of senior member non-teaching at the technical universities on the campus. Now, joining us via Zoom is the National President of TUSAG, Joseph Oti Esrifi Mensah. I'm grateful for your time this afternoon, sir. Mr. Esrifi, kindly unmute for me. Hello, Mr. Esrifi, do we have you? Great.
Good afternoon, great to have you too.
Great. So if you have put forward these issues before government, why not wait for an amicable solution, from government? But why are you threatening a strike right now?
The communique issued on Friday is only indicating the state of the affairs as we speak. The 6 items that were listed on the last communique are items that have been on the table for discussion, some of them as far back as November 2021. The matter of the demand for the restoration of the full allowances for faculty officers and a attainment allowance for faculty accountants had been on the table for the last 12 months. The issue that got to do with the disparities arising out of the levels of salaries of senior members non-teaching at TUs and traditional universities dates to April 2021. So these are not items that are just cropping up. The items that we have engaged GTech and the government severally. We have had informal conversations with them. We have written to them. We have had discussions on the table with them. Our last letter to GTech was on 21st of August 2021. There have been informal conversations and correspondence, but I guess it is time for us to demonstrate our decision on the fact that government, GTech, has not been forthcoming in terms of giving us time.
So you had the
response to this issue. So,
Mr. Sirifi, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Sirifi. Right, so Mr. Sirifi is the national president of TUSAG, and he says that they've given government enough time, but the issues have not been resolved. So they're bent on going on that strike. We'll bring you more on that as and when it unfolds. But the minority in parliament is commending government for pulling the brakes on the implementation of a policy which would have made it difficult to import used vehicles. The Ghana Standards Authority was seeking to ban the importation of such vehicles without conformance certificates. The minority said such a policy will price out the poor in owning cars. According to ranking member on the Trade and Industry Committee, Emmanuel Kofi Amaboa, government has agreed to suspend the implementation of the policy.
We got a letter from the Ghana Standard Authority, and our fears came true that the Ministry of Energy, the Ministry of Trade and Industry has basically called for a halt to that announcement because they did not do the proper consultation with the mother ministry, and that the plan by the ministry is to work on a legislation and a long-term plan before this policy is rolled. So clearly that announcement, unfortunately, the Ghana Standard Authority has not come back to the public to make the announcement. Again, if you recall, the Bank of Ghana also issued a statement that they are no longer going to support forests for importers. And immediately there were questions being asked. We know that our ultimate objective, and this is what Ghana has been striving for from day one, to make sure that we can add values to the things we have comparative advantage here and stop the importation of almost everything. But the reality is that today almost everything we use in this country is imported. And that is why every government, from Kwame Nkrumah with its import substitution strategy, has been working to make sure that we can have industries that will produce the critical things that we need.
Ranking member on the Roads and Transport Committee governs Kwame Agboja, while commending government for taking this decision, tasked officials to dialogue with all stakeholders during the suspension period.
Policy. I want to take the opportunity to thank Ghana Standards Authority and the Minister of Trade for listening to our position, and that is the basis of the 24th November letter saying that that issue has been suspended. We believe once they've done that, let's do the second step. That is go back and do proper consultation with importers, assemblers of vehicles, and those who engage in trading of used vehicles, so that we can come up on a appropriate day that we can roll out this. Nobody is against Ghana having the capacity to assemble vehicles, but I don't think we are there yet. So now that they have suspended the program based on what we have said, I think they should activate the second step, which is to do the proper consultation so that together we can implement this policy and not hurt any part of our economy, which is already struggling. Those that are fit for purpose, the modalities you put in place for them to be imported should be there. I have no doubt that the vast majority of vehicles on our roads are vehicles imported into this country as used vehicles. Yes, I agree. So whilst we build our own capacity to import or assemble vehicles here, until that activity leads to a cheaper or relatively cheaper vehicles assembled here, we are not there yet to be able to do that.
Government has been asked to tread cautiously in its ambitious gold for oil barter deal. The Chamber of Mines is the latest to ask government to hasten slowly in its quest to get cheaper options for fuel and also reduce the stress on the city. Since the social media announcement of the deal by Vice President Baumia, there have been concerns about the practicality of the policy. We'll hear from government shortly, but first, listen to the CEO of the Chamber of Mines, Dr. Suleiman Akoni.
See, the devil is in the details. We don't have the details, and that's the difficulty. Yes, we know about the domestic gold purchase program, but then you are talking about the counterparties who are interested in taking gold for oil, which they would sell to the state. We need some more details, and this is where government needs to take its time and go through due diligence. Yes, we know that we are in a difficult situation, but we need to hasten slowly and make sure that we really understand and appreciate what we want to do before we actually sign off. On paper, it looks novel. It is quite innovative. This is something we've never done before. I think that this is something we should be able to do, but let's hasten slowly so that we really understand the various risks involved.
Former Power Minister and a member of the Mines and Energy Committee, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, says the introduction of that policy is exposing government's desperation. But speaking on the probe, Deputy Minister in charge of Petroleum, Dr. Amina Dam, insists proper due diligence is currently underway and adds that the policy will take off in March 2023.
Accessible means by which citizens of Ghana can get information from government. And the fact that we put it out through social media is the reason we are discussing this subject today. And many other people who haven't seen it through social media will have the opportunity to listen to this program and understand it better. And as I said, we are going to further engage stakeholders, some of whom have been engaged over the last 3 weeks. And we are not ending it here. We will continue to engage. You know that policy making is not an event, it's an ongoing process. And this is what we intend to do.
Okay, so let's talk about it, because it appears that even before the announcement, a lot of background work had already started. And I know you are key in this negotiation. Let's talk about it. Where exactly are we with talks on this?
So we have been engaging with a number of stakeholders, those in the oil industry in Ghana. We have engaged the Bank of Ghana. We also have been talking to oil suppliers, those who supply petroleum products to our country through the BDCs. And we also have been engaging gold refiners as well as gold brokers. And so extensive discussions and consultations have taken place over the last 1 month. And this is why, at this point, we are confident that we can implement that policy, hence the announcement by His Excellency, the Vice President. Now, the main factors that we need to look at to implement this policy are, as you asked, do we have enough gold to exchange for our oil requirement?
Dr. Amin Adams is a Deputy Energy Minister in charge of petroleum. Now, an intense game ahead as Ghana meets South Korea in their second World Cup game at Education City Stadium in Qatar today. Here in Accra, many Ghanaians are optimistic the Black Stars are going to come out victorious. My colleague Mapito Sevidi spoke to some of them.
Actually, our boys are now serious to play the match, and I think if we allow the coach to bring in the right people to play, I think Ghana is going to win. Yeah. The right people like who? Actually, we need to start with the good and attackers, which are who can stand the fit and strong players who are right to play.
The Black Stars win 3-0 for Ghana today.
And then what's your score prediction?
I think if we have a good day, we are going to score them too.
Well, I'm expecting Ghana to win today because we really need this. If not, we'll be out of the competition.
So can you give me a scoreline prediction?
Oh, it should be a win for us.
My expectation is very high morale, because I'm very confident with our team, what we have done last time. So I'm very comfortable, at least 3-0. Yeah.
Can you predict who might score those goals?
Those goals will come from any angle, because if you look at, it depends on the coach how he's going to select, because I don't know the first 11 at the moment, but I'm very comfortable about Kudus Mohamed can score. And Ayu still have a big chance if he will play for more than 45 minutes.
Today our expectation is very high. We're supposed to win this match and qualify to the next stage. No matter how it is, today we are going to win South Korea. But the coach have to do 1 or 2 changes in our team. Especially, Baba Man is a very good player. But let the coach drop him like maybe first half and start Gideon Mensah on the left side. And maybe Salusu, 4 and 5. Then use Amate, because today match we need a players who can tackle very well. So if he starts maybe a free banner.
Yeah, but today's match is a must win. So at all costs we have to win.
So who should coach to other starts?
I'm expecting Kudus and Ineki William to start the game.
Black Stars fan hopeful for a win after a stellar performance by the boys against Portugal. Black Stars will meet South Korea, and this will be their 10th meeting in all of the competitions. Ghana, being ranked the lowest team in the tournament, surprised the Portuguese last week. Will they do the same to the South Koreans? Well, we'll wait and see. You can follow us on all our platforms for live commentary on Joy 99.7 FM.
Ghana time. Let's go to Kumasi, where football lovers there are skeptical following their experience with the Ghana-Portugal clash last week. They implore head coach Otto Addo to be tactical with changes as they blame substitutions as having contributed to the triumph of Portugal. Love FM's Clinton Yeboah has more in this report.
The last time Ghana met Portugal, it wasn't much of a good experience. Fortunately, there are 2 more matches to determine the fate of Ghana and that of the Ghana Black Stars. We are here to interact with football lovers and what their expectations are for the games ahead.
To me, first half from the bit about Dubai, second half from the city to go be the film the match of my first 11 year Juma. Before Obama, there are Ababuni, because Baba born and run by our city. They were in term. Don't see the idea because the strikers net in my and I mentioned the Jibon Kevin Able. So what has intended be I was saying possible near the Queen. They keep on so we are like on Tanubondi by I was saying here Chelsea. Can you just a bit to me? I show one term. The monumental Ghana Chile. We was South Korea. Until me dem tell me Pampi Illuminati. Me tell me Chitare. The best Ghana there. Me dem and you pay a players immune, the die union in Yano. Omonia, the also Muslim no be baby. Omunim born a box, and the woman in Tinimentao Machi. The Cadeda Unicorn Podianka, the man of Basso, a Bonabasso Cacla. By the Niaba, oh, one a dear, when you bobo. Who fleet him in the air, me full support a Ghana, may Tao Machi. Baumumia no woman dear, said Ghana or near ye. Other boys ever book with other boys.
actual mine. Our men sorry support team. A man throw mine men the players attempt. Because so come my for friends and Munina. Any I sorry no money and support team. Because team achieve and no money cost. I say no we can set player, we can set player, and why money. And for support in town, but no Muslim team and more minor. The best to work up now, boys, minimum mujidi by due to born money Portugal no boy in the 2 games I can a bit maybe boys in the area. A bit much straight.
From Kumasi, reporting for JoyNews, Clinton Yabua.
Away from football, John, not his real name, was just a boy when his own father sold him to 3 boat owners on Lake Volta. His masters forced him to engage in hazardous fishing activities, but he managed to escape and is now in class 6 and already on the path to becoming a professional footballer as he hopes to represent Ghana at the World Cup. Maxwell Agbagba went to visit him in an island community in the northern region in our report.
His father allegedly took money from 3 boat owners. His mother tells me John's father came for him under the guise of getting him to start school, but rather sold him to some fishermen on Lake Volta.
About 4 months ago, I heard my son was engaged in dangerous fishing activities on Lake Volta. I cried and was determined to find him. I really suffered to take care of him. I sold some of my personal possessions just to take care of him. I bumped into my son at Yeji. It was unexpected, and I am grateful to God. He became very sick. He was beaten by the boatmasters, and that affected his health. They beat him with their paddles when he's unable to dive into the water to untangle a net. My boy, he was always crying and complaining of waist pains and his abdomen. I couldn't eat.
John's duties included, but were not limited to scooping water from the boats and diving into Lake Volta to untangle fishing nets. He was forced to work on the lake from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. and continue at midnight and return at 5 a.m. every day. He was physically abused, starved, and neglected. I'm now at John's school on the island where a class is in session in a dilapidated structure made of mud. Now, John no longer has to go fishing during school hours. He says he's determined to complete his education and pursue a career in professional football and hopefully represent Ghana at the World Cup. He's optimistic he will make enough money to build a new school to replace the rundown structure in his community.
I'm from Casimiro.
Casimiro.
We are from FC.
On the field, my friends call me Casimiro. I play for Familia FC. I'll develop the community and provide them with electricity and a better school building. I know I can do it. Our school building is dilapidated and we're unable to do proper studies yet. When the sun starts shining, we have to close.
The head teacher here at John's school says all attempts to get authorities to fix the dilapidated school structure have proven futile. He's hopeful John, whom he describes as generous, will help change the story of the community.
He's kind. He's good to us. When we talk about football aspect, he's one of our key players in the school. And he also shows due respect to the teachers.
I think the issue of child trafficking has been a worrying situation to almost all.
I've now met Godwin Awudi. He's assembly member for the Yeji Traditional Council electoral area. 31 children were rescued at the Yeji in the first quarter of 2021.
We're still live on Joy News today on the Joy News channel. When we return from this break, we'll bring you the very latest coming from the world of business.
Hi, welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwa. We have some news just coming in to us. The policy rate has been increased by the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana by 2.5% to hit 27%. The central bank governor currently addressing a press conference. As you can see right now, we'll bring you more subsequently on the marketplace. Now, Executive Director of Enterprise Bureau, Ethel Ann Komlaga, is urging the youth to venture into entrepreneurship and create businesses to increase their income. She made the call during the launch of an investment book titled Sikampedede.
The Sikampedede book is an investment guide that will aid the average Ghanaian to make good financial decisions and provides insights into viable investment opportunities that people can opt for. Speaking at the launch of the book, the Executive Director of Enterprise Bureau, Ethel Ann Komlaga, said it is important for people to acquire skills that would help them set up profitable businesses.
And if it is okay for us to consider re-education, by re-education we divert into skills, and whatever degree one has acquired, it is right for one to acquire a skill as well. And I think that is why we were gathered to talk about all the issues about entrepreneurship and also funding and how to be aligned for funding opportunities. To be an entrepreneur, I think I mentioned that everyone is an entrepreneur in one way or the other. Identifying a problem and solving it personally or in an organization. So just to be able to scale it, you have to look at your belief system, what you are aligned with. Per my presentation, I talked about craftspeople, the mountain climbers, and the freedom fighters. You have to be able to know what you are good at, and then you build your profile accordingly.
Author of the book, Sikampedede, Peter Asari Nyako, added that it is important to plan for emergency expenditures when making a budget.
In planning your major expenditures, one thing you need to do is to come out with a budget. And in your budget, you should have an item for emergencies. So in case something happens out of the blue, you know that you have made provisions for it in your emergencies. So you use that amount to cover any emergencies that will occur.
Now, government says it has no plans to abruptly abandon the exploration of oil and gas resources, citing them as vital to the economy. According to Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, government plans to progressively wean Ghana off its reliance on fossil fuels by speeding up the development of renewable energy sources. He was speaking on behalf of President Akufo-Addo at the 2022 Ghana Energy Awards.
President Dr. Bawumia at the event said government will continue to make the necessary strategic investment in clean energy and green technology whilst striking an important balance with hydrocarbon assets to ensure they are not stranded.
The critical concern for the sector in our country still exists. That is the continuous exploitation of our hydrocarbon assets. Let me be quick to emphasize that government does not plan to abruptly abandon the exploitation of our oil and gas resources, as they are critical to our economy. Instead, government intends to gradually wean Ghana off dependence on fossil fuel through the acceleration of and the rollout of renewables. The passage of the Renewable Energy Master Plan 2019 and the sustainable use of natural resources and energy financing in 2021 attest to our commitment in this direction.
Chairman at the oil and gas sector of the Association of Ghana Industries, Kwame Jantua, called for diversity within the sector.
You know, there are two sides of energy. There's the petroleum side and there's the power side.
on both sides contribute to climatic change because of fossil fuels and the generation of electricity. Now, on the generation of electricity, we are talking about renewable. That's where the transition comes in. But I think Ghana sits in a very opportune place. We've now discovered lithium, and we can turn our crude into materials for electric cars. The lithium, we can do batteries. So it depends on how we plan it going forward. I think we're in a very good position to be able to supply the renewable energy sector with good materials, especially electric cars. And then you look at the hydro gas situation and the renewables, the solar.
The Ghana Energy Awards aims to recognize the efforts, innovations, and excellence of stalwarts in the sector. The award scheme further seeks to celebrate the tremendous work of competing players under the various award categories.
Well, there's more business news coming up on the marketplace at the top of the hour. Sports is coming up next.
Hello, welcome to Sports. My name is Razak Musbao. Now, in a few minutes' time, Ghana will take on South Korea in their second group game with hopes of advancing beyond the group stage, a game where they will need all points, particularly a win. Well, Coach Otohado has been speaking, and he says the boys will play with passion today and very confident that the team will get a good result.
At the moment, looks like Portugal, but if they would be a little bit unlucky, we could have drawn against them. So you see anything is possible, and Uruguay is good, and South Korea also. So I think it's an equal group. Anything can happen. There might be some surprises with nobody is calculating with, but at the moment, it looks like Portugal is ahead of the group. This one, sorry but I can't answer. If I go in details, we will prepare South Korea to play good against us. So I hope you were on my side, but this question is a little bit made me thinking. No, sorry, I can't answer this. But we will see. Okay, what I can see, we see a passionate team. We will see the same passion which they showed the last game. This I'm 100% sure is a big stage. Everybody's hungry to play. Training good, making it difficult for me to make decisions, and really looks good. And they will show it, I'm sure. Players have to be very, very fast in their head, and especially if we switch also with what we did against Portugal, the formation, and then we play it differently, and they have to be fast and adaptive. But this is what they're doing in their teams. Amat is playing Leicester City. It's not a small club, for example, and this is the things they face there. And things go fast, and they have to be very, very fast in their head. And they did well. Surely we always have a plan. Good morning. And no matter if we would have even won or lost, this was also our plan after the match, to train in the morning and then give them free till 9 o'clock in the evening so that they can see their friends and families. So, yeah, but this hasn't got anything to do with the result. This was our plan from I don't know, we planned it in September. And yeah, we surely want our players to feel well and then to have a good relationship with the players. And I think personally, if you have a good relationship with players, they can perform even more.
Well, Otohado speaking then. Ahead of that game, the lineup for Ghana has been released, and Otohado has made 3 changes, introducing Jordan Ayew, Tariq Lamptey, and Gideon Mensah. Inaki Williams continued to start up front. Jordan Ayew flanking him on the right. Andrew Ayew playing at the left. Mohamed Kudus, Salis Abdul Samad, and Thomas Partey remain in midfield. But in defense, that's where there's been some changes. Gideon Mensah comes in for Baba Rahman. Mohamed Salisu maintains his starting position. And Daniel Amati also maintains. Tariq Lamptey also comes in for Alidu Seidu there. So that's the changes that Otto Addo has made ahead of that crucial game against South Korea in a few minutes' time. And just gone by, Cameroon managed to get a 3-3 draw against Serbia, picking 1 point so far in the group, with the hopes of possibly beating Brazil in their final group game to advance to the next stage of the competition. That's all we have for you on sports. My name is Razak Musbao.
Welcome to Showbiz here on Joy News. Now, it's always a pleasure bringing you Showbiz here on the channel. This afternoon, a lot has happened over the weekend from Sarkodie's UK tour, rapper Stormzy's album Listening, actress Rita Dominic's white wedding held in the UK. Here's a wrap of everything you missed.
At the Yelwak Stadium, from the arm wrestling to all the performances from your favorite musician. You cannot afford to miss out on the next edition. Let's stay in the UK and talk about musician Stormzy's album Listening. Not only did Stormzy get a surprise appearance and performance by Black Sheriff, also patrons were thrilled by the new body of work by Stormzy and has been recommended for every music lover. So, don't forget to check out the This Is What I Mean album by Stormzy.
Stay tuned for more showbiz news later on in the bulletin. Black Stars, they're ready.
Definitely.
To make us proud. Hopefully, they don't mess us around.
2-0.
Am I the only one scared? I don't know,
Don't be scared, be positive. The guys will make us proud.
Okay.
Go Ghana. I'm rooting for you out there. That'll be it for the bulletin this afternoon. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Log on to myjoyonline.com. There's more of the news and updates of all the developing stories. Do enjoy the rest of our programs.